Verse 430. I establish thought constructions where all things are non-existent. Whatever expressions and experiences that belong to the ignorant are not of the truth as it is. So the assumption is that it's the Buddha speaking here. And this is a bit strange. He establishes thought constructions where all things are non-existent. So what are thought constructions? Are they ideas? Do they refer to the Buddha's teachings? Well, I guess so. But what he's telling us is that all things are non-existent. And all he's doing is creating things which are non-existent. In fact, we could all make this statement. We could all make the statement, I establish thought constructions where all things are non-existent. This is the state of ignorance. Although not quite. It's not realizing that thought constructions are being created, which is ignorant. The Buddha created thought constructions in order to point us to self-realization. If they don't have that purpose, then we don't need to bother with them. The importance for us in this statement is to stop taking everything so seriously, to stop taking ourselves so seriously, because we are thought constructions. I am a thought construction. Who I think I am is a thought construction. What I think the world is like is a thought construction. Thought constructions are our beliefs, our ideas, our assumptions. They're just thought constructions. We can drop them because all things are non-existent. Whatever expressions and experiences that belong to the ignorant are not of the truth as it is. All expressions and experiences belong to the ignorant. So even the Buddha's thought constructions belong to the ignorant. What's important here is the realization that that is what they are. Thought constructions. One of the most fundamental thought constructions we have is the notion of a physical reality. Can we understand that as a thought construction, or do you resist that idea? There are things going on. Can we just accept that? I've recently been teaching a module, an undergraduate module on avant-garde and experimental music. It's something I've been asked to do on occasion. And there's somebody called Pierre Schaeffer. He's regarded as the founder of musique concrète. He was one of the first people to go out and record sounds and then manipulate these sounds to give what you might call a sonic collage. Although it was a bit more than that, it was a bit more structured. He opened up discussion on what is meant by music. But he was concerned with this thing called reduced listening. He wanted us to hear sounds as they are, and not in terms of trying to imagine where these sounds came from. So we tend to describe sounds in terms of their source of production, for one of his first compositions, he recorded the sounds in a railway yard. And that's what we hear when we listen to it. We hear the sounds of trains, sounds of the railway yard. But can we listen to it as just sound rather than thinking in terms of where the sound comes from? He called this reduced listening, and it seems to be something which people found very difficult, and it's a concept which fell out of favour. But it's a very important one spiritually, I think. Can we listen to something without putting a label on it, without trying to figure out where it's coming from and what's producing it? Because where it's coming from and what's producing it are thought constructions. There's a sound going on right now from somewhere outside my window. When I hear this sound, my first thought is, what is it? It sounds like somebody's using some kind of blowing device or sanding device, and I'm curious to know what it is. Why not just listen to the sound? Take the sound as something in itself, rather than try and define it in terms of what it is, who's making it, where it's coming from. All these things are thought constructions, which are more real for us than the sound itself. So our reality is made up of these thought constructions. That's just to do with sound. But everything we experience and feel, we think of in terms of what gave rise to it. What's causing it? What's its nature? What can we do about it? And in this way we're not accepting it as it is. We're resisting it. We are not being open to the truth as it is. So this is a little practice we can do with respect to sounds. Can we just listen to sounds as things in themselves, rather than as thought constructions? Another development in avant-garde and experimental music was the acceptance of noise. Noise is an interesting one. Noise is generally regarded as something unpleasant, as something undesirable. But as music's developed, it's pushed the boundaries, and in some cases completely embraced noise. There are whole genres of noise music, rock noise or noise rock, noise electronica. In a way it represents an expansion, an embracing of noise, an acceptance rather than a rejection. We're not judging it as pleasant or unpleasant. How can any sound be pleasant or unpleasant? The composer John Cage referred to this on one occasion, or at least one occasion. He said that whenever he found a sound unpleasant, he asked himself why he found the sound unpleasant. When he looked into it, he saw no reason to find the sound unpleasant. Sound is sound, noise is noise. So sound is a good way of examining our tendency to invest in thought constructions. But it goes for the whole visual panorama as well. Some sights are pleasant, some unpleasant. Why? Why? Are sights not simply sights? And the whole notion of whether they're pleasant or unpleasant is to do with thought constructions. So here we have, as we had in the previous verse, the previous video, another reminder to wake up. To wake up from our thought constructions, which is essentially what a dream is.